Mark Rogers TV talking Big 12 football with a huge weekend on tap. And to talk the conference and three of the huge games this weekend, we go to Tyler Midkiff. He's a writer for the LGG, that's Land Grant Gauntlet. Tyler, how you doing today?
Doing well, Mark. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. So the Big 12, I think it's kind of ironic that maybe the conference, at least this is the perception, is playing better football than it has in 5 or 6 years. I don't know if that's reality, but based on the conference doing extremely well in the out-of-conference, and then the games have been really fun, very impressive, down to the wire against the contenders during the conference season, that the conference is in good shape in terms of national perspective, but might be playing itself out of a college football playoff appearance. The way things are stacking up, need somebody to really run the table. Just your thoughts about the Big 12's play this year, and what do you think about the conference race at this point?
Yeah, I agree. I think that this has been a season where you can really see the quality of the Big 12 from top to bottom. I mean, there's a scenario where 8 of the 10 teams actually make it to a bowl game. And so the depth is probably unmatched among the conferences. But the top half is probably the best that it's been in a couple years. You have a really competitive OU, OSU, TCU, Iowa State. Even West Virginia has been competitive in a lot of the games that they've played. And Texas actually has one of the best defenses in the conference. So it is probably the best that the conference has been in a while. But like you said, that could ultimately play to the disadvantage, not only knocking each other out, but with the added conference championship game. That's another spot where maybe, hypothetically, OU runs the table, gets into the conference championship game with 1 loss, and then gets upset, and now they're on the outside looking in of the playoff because of that second loss in the conference championship game. So it could be to the Big 12's misfortune that they're all playing so well.
Yeah, it's a pretty narrow path right now to get 2 one-loss teams into the conference championship game. It's possible. I think TCU and Oklahoma, well, they do play. I think it's almost impossible to get 2 one-loss teams into the championship game now that I kind of review who's coming up here.
Yeah, I think it'll be tough. I think the hope is at this point that Oklahoma State and TCU run the table, because then I think you'll have 2 one-loss teams, and that would be probably the best perception-wise for the conference.
There you go, right there. And maybe the best for the conference overall would be Oklahoma, since they've got that number 5 spot in the rankings just to run the table. But for the championship game and not to upset the conference going into the playoff berth, yeah, that would be it. Oklahoma State and TCU have already played. They've got each 1 loss, and they run the table until they meet again. So we've got West Virginia, Tyler, hosting Iowa State. So they're the darlings of the conference. They're the darlings of college football. They've come out of nowhere, and now I think we can say they are a quality team. They have done enough at this point, even going back to taking Iowa State to overtime, or Iowa to overtime, losing that game. Texas, as you mentioned, extremely tough on defense, and the best 4-4 team in college football. That's a 10-point game, and then they really kick into gear once they lose Jacob Park and have ripped off these impressive wins. So you got Iowa State taking on West Virginia in Morgantown.
Yeah, and I think that what's been impressive about Iowa State, well, a lot of things have been impressive about Iowa State, but one of the things that stood out to me is Matt Campbell's ability to change the game plan based off what he's rolling out. Early in the season, it was about scoring points. They scored 40+ against Iowa, and Jacob Park airing it out. And as Park had to leave the team and Kyle Kemp stepped in, they've really shifted and said, all right, we're going to play defense. We're going to run the ball. We're going to grind out games. And they've been winning doing that. And so it has been impressive to see Matt Campbell coach at a really high level, doing just whatever needs to get done on a week-to-week basis. They are going to be a really interesting challenge for West Virginia this week. West Virginia is one of the more potent offenses in the Big 12, but can be mistake prone. And against a team like Iowa State, who has some of the lowest penalty yardage in the country, one of the best turnover margins in the country, I think it could really play into West Virginia's disadvantage. Despite maybe having more talent on paper, they could really be looking at putting themselves in second and long, third and long, because they are getting holding penalties and things of that nature, that Iowa State just is going to be kind of unforgiving if you're making those mistakes.
Yeah, so if you thought about picking a winner on this one, I don't want to let anything out of the bag if we want to direct everyone to the LGG for your final selection here.
Yeah, we do have picks coming out later in the later today, I think, or maybe even tomorrow for the LGG. But I will say that I think that this one is going to be close. I'm not totally sold that this is going to be a barn burner either way. I think Iowa State's defense is just too good to let this to let the game get away from them at any point, is my belief.